So this week for me, it's a deload week, meaning I'm pulling back on the cycling, just doing a little bit of endurance work. It will allow me more time to focus on predominantly upper body work and strength work as well. So today I'm just going to do an upper body push-pull session, which I'm going to put in here, and also give you a little bit of a talk through on some pointers with the exercises and stuff. So as always, if you've got any questions on what I'm doing, or you want more detail on exercises specifically, then drop me a comment below and I will speak to you in the comment section. If not, stick around, have a look at the session, take what you can from it, and I'll see you shortly. So as I said, I'm just going to talk you through this session today. I'm primarily supersetting in this session, and it's all push and pull, obviously. So primarily in a horizontal position. I haven't got anything really to do any sort of vertical pull work, like pull-ups or pull-downs. So I'll be looking forward to that when gyms open back up again. But as I say, I'm primarily focusing to start with on barbell bent over rows. I like to start on my weaker exercises, and for me personally, these exercises, this is a weaker exercise for me. So in that first set, I didn't use wrist wraps, but for these sets and beyond now, as it gets heavier, I just primarily like to use wrist wraps. I just prefer the feel. I like to take the stress away from my wrists and my grip and my forearms, and make sure that I'm really stretching at the bottom and squeezing at the top, so I can activate my back a hell of a lot more. And I find I can do that much better whilst wearing wrist wraps predominantly all the time. So this is first warm-up set for flat dumbbell chest press. I say flat is actually on a slight gradient. I'd say sort of one click up at 10%. And I'm using 22.5 kilos. The bent over rows, they were just 2 sets of 12 reps. But this, as I say, this flat dumbbell chest press. Today I'm going to be focusing on paused reps. I need to accommodate for the fact that I've got limited gym equipment. Well, I say limited, it's actually, I've got 30 kilos in weight, but nothing more than that. So I have to use different techniques, whether it be drop sets, supersets, single sets, alternate arms, pause reps, different stimulus all the time to try to keep shocking the tissue. So as I said, I'm doing slow eccentric work today, 2-second pause at the bottom, 1-second push, no pause, straight back into the next rep. So this is my first working set for barbell bent over rows. It's 80 kilos. And as you say, I'm focusing on a big stretch at the bottom, keeping my core tight, neutral spine, and squeezing at the top, squeezing my lats and keeping my elbows nice and tightly back. First working set for flat or slight incline dumbbell chest press. It's 3 seconds down eccentric with that 2-second pause, really feeling the stretch, 1-second push and squeezing back up. You can't really tell at this point, but there is a slight angle on the dumbbells. They're not square. As I'm pressing up, I'm trying to keep my elbows tucked in line with my chest and my nipples, if you like, and really trying to take my focus away from gripping the dumbbell and actually focusing on pushing back up with a looser grip in my hands. That really helps in terms of activating your pecs and your chest that little bit more, because when you over grip the dumbbell, you start to put too much stress into the forearm, and when you do that, you typically take the shock or the stress away from the pecs where you're trying to work. Second exercise, this is a dumbbell bent over row, and as you can see, in contrast to the barbell, you can actually pull your elbows back a hell of a lot more. So this will be tapping into my lower lats a little bit more, and I'm really pulling the elbows back. It almost looks as though it's like a backwards J. And that's superset with a incline dumbbell chest press. And rather than the pause reps on this one now, I'm primarily going to be focusing on just slow eccentric, but also slow concentric. Not rushing the reps, if anything, because of that lower resistance. I'm actually trying to feel each and every rep and really trying to squeeze the pecs as a press. A lot of people focusing on squeezing the pecs at the top, when in essence what you're trying to do is actually stretch the dumbbell through the whole move and feel the squeeze as you push the weight back up. Next exercise is seated dumbbell shoulder press. For me personally, anything over my head I just generally hate, like military press or dumbbell press or Arnold press. Arnold press is probably my nemesis. It's definitely one area that I want to fundamentally work on going forwards, just to add sort of more strength into anything vertical overhead. But as I said, this is normal speed, sort of 2 seconds down, 1 second push, seated dumbbell shoulder press. And that's superset with a seated dumbbell lateral raise. I like to move positions in this one, and obviously trying to keep my body as still as possible. It does look as though I am starting to rock a little bit, and that's going to be a given the more that you fatigue throughout the set. But it's really important to try and force the chest up, stay nice and tall through the posture, and then squeeze out those last few reps. The nemesis, this is the seated dumbbell Arnold press. I don't know why, I just generally hate them, but I just know that I need to get better at them. So if anything, when I start the session, I should focus on these a lot more. But as I said, yeah, this is a dumbbell Arnold press. People like to either come down to the chest or keep the dumbbells slightly in line with their eye line, so that the elbows are up higher. That is more intense. This does allow for more range of movement, and it does allow for you to obviously go that little bit heavier if necessary. This is now a standing dumbbell lateral raise, and in comparison to the seated lateral raise, obviously you get a little bit more leeway in terms of momentum with these. There's always going to be an argument for and against, but as long as you're not swinging or rocking too hard, you do have to stop and adjust like I've just done, to ensure that you're not doing that. Probably my favourite exercise, probably the most irrelevant exercise for using the bike, alternate dumbbell bicep curl. I just like that slight twist in the hips, pushing the dumbbell out in front of you first and then squeezing at the top. A lot of people actually keep their elbows back, which has got pros and cons. I personally feel it a lot more in the bicep when I force the elbow forwards and squeeze the dumbbell through at the top of the move. Then the final exercise is a dumbbell tricep extension. Again, there's different varieties you can do for this. You can really drive your elbows in. You can change the angle of your hands and push the elbows out ever so slightly. You have to keep switching the angle all the time and stretch the muscle in a different way that it's not used to in order to challenge it that little bit more. So effectively I am actually trying to rotate a touch at the top of this move and at the bottom of this move with the dumbbells and really get that squeeze.